What's up, everyone? Welcome to the live reveal of the first ever Infinite Legions project from Four Horsemen Studios. I'm not alone tonight. I've certainly got some co-hosts with me here tonight. Please welcome both of them. And guys, how are you doing this evening?
Doing well.
Jeremy. Hey, everybody.
So this is such an interesting reveal because our audience tonight, I think, is going to be fairly unique. We've got, a mix of our community, our Legions community, and certainly members of the Glyos community and toy fans in general coming together as such a big part of what Infinite Legions is about. So it kind of made me realize that some people who may be tuning in may not know who the three of us are. So maybe a quick introduction. Matt, since you're the man of the hour, why don't we start with you?
I'm Matt Doughty, and I run Onell Design with Mark Baudet and my wife, Michelle. And we make the Glyos system figures, and we work with about just over a dozen other makers currently on different lines that are Glyos compatible. And we've been at it this is our 18th year. And we've known the Horseman team for almost that same amount of time in many different forms. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell. So we make Pheyden and the boys.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Matt. Eric?
Hi, I'm Eric Treadaway, and I'm one of the co-owners of Four Horsemen Toy Design, and do a lot of the design and sculpting on Mythic Legions, Cosmic Legions, Figura Obscura, and now Infinite Legions.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Eric. My name is Jeremy Gerard. I am the Director of Sales and Marketing for Four Horsemen Studios, which means that I get to talk a lot on live streams like this about all the cool stuff that we are producing. And I've been saying since we first teased Infinite Legions back at G-Con in November that this is the line I am most excited for right now. I love all of the Legions lines, Mythic, Cosmic, Figura Obscura. But something about this line and the collaborative nature of Infinite Legions really, really has me pumped. Part of what we knew right from the beginning of this line and this project, kicking it off with Matt and, Onell Design, was that we needed to document this. So Brad Treadaway, who's been, a member of the studio for a while now, who's been capturing all kinds of great footage, he put together just such an impactful little piece that once we saw it, we realized that it was a great way to start this presentation. So for everyone watching, the three of us are going to actually take a little bit of a back seat for about the next 15 minutes or so. We've got a presentation to show you that I think very succinctly sums up what is so special about this. Stay with us through the credits. Once this video ends through the credits, we're going to come back because we've got a lot more to cover. We've got a lot more to show you. But first things first, let us bring up that video about what Infinite Legions and this project is all about.
So Eric and I had been talking about a collaboration. It was a very simple sort of origin point. We had become fast friends, and we were at San Diego Comic-Con, and it was early in the morning, and we both had, for whatever reason, decided to walk to each other's booth. I was walking down to see him, he was walking up to see me. And I said, hey, what are you doing? He's like, well, I was coming to see you. I was coming to see you. He's like, I got something for you. And he just hands me a little baggie, and in the baggie were about 4 heads, hand cast, one of them painted, of his version of Pheyden. 100% from him. He sculpted it. He had it cast at the shop. He painted one, and it was a Pheyden that was very organic, very cosmic. Little did we know, and it had these bio vents on it and these fangs that hung down. And he had painted it. He'd done a wipe on it and wash. So it was the sort of a bone colored one with these like red eyes, reddish pink eyes, and it looked just wicked. And it was totally unexpected. I remember looking at it, and I was just like, "This is incredible! And I love this." He said, "Well, just something for you. I thought you'd like it. I was just thinking about it." As Eric, kind person, sharing that talent, and we talked a little bit, and then we, kind of headed back to our booths, and I kept looking at this little head, and we called it Evil Pheyden because it looked pretty wicked. Pheyden has this determination. This son of a looked like he'd bite your, arm off.
So the whole idea behind Infinite Legions was to create a line that we could partner with other creators whom we admire and who we wanted to work with to kind of bring their creations into the world of Legions.
So this is kind of a way for us to work with people that we're fans of, people that we just want to be around, that speak to us.
It's about the collaborations. These are partnerships that we're putting together. We are working directly with creators to bring their visions to life.
This is about the love of what we're doing and the love of the toy that we're making and the love of our line, the love of our pieces, the love of our parts that we make. This pop and swap system has allowed us to be able to do this kind of a thing where we can work with someone who we admire and who we want to be around.
These are their characters through the lens of Four Horsemen Studios and the Legions build format.
We imagine Legions as a build system, so similar to like Glyos or Lego. It doesn't matter whether you buy a Star Wars Lego or a Harry Potter Lego or a dump truck Lego. It's all Lego. It's a certain system. In our Legions figures, whether it's Mythic Legions, Cosmic Legions, or Figura Obscura, they use a shared library of parts. But we see an opportunity with a number of independent creators that are passionate about their creations and being able to bring those into our build system and create really cool high-end collectible fun figures of those characters using the Legions build system.
We want to work directly with the creators and find out what's in their vision, what they want to see in these figures, what their concepts are, what type of creativity they bring to the table, so that we can directly go back and forth and bring the best of both parts of this combination to the table and make something really cool out of it.
So we called this idea Infinite Legions because it means infinite possibilities. There's really anything that we could do with this line. There's anybody that we could partner with to bring these new characters into this world.
It's a celebration of both them and us together and what we can do and what we can create together. And the first one that we're working on is Pheyden with the Glyos system, which is somewhere in this vicinity in this room. It's a big part of this room.
Pheyden is Matt's main character in the world of Glyos. It's an iconic figure in his line, and it's one that I certainly have a number of in my collection. Because our relationship with Matt, our history with Glyos, is really the ultimate version of what we're looking to do with this line. It's a true collaboration on every level. The figures are going to be very cool. fusing them with our aesthetic has been a lot of fun and a very natural fit as well. But again, the collaboration going into it and the discussions that we're having and the history that we're building on with this is just such a long time coming. It's years in the making.
It made so much sense to begin with Onell Design and Matt Doughty and his flagship character Pheyden. So much about Legions, we kind of owe what we've built here to the Glyos system and the Glyos community.
So the pop and swap of Mythic Legions was born from this Glyos world. It is a world of its own that Matt had invented. When I say Matt, I mean the entire Glyos crew, that they invented to be able to build with their figures in a way that you can take them apart and reconfigure them into however you want them to look. You can get the same figure over and over again, and just if you buy 5 of them, you can put all those pieces together and build your own thing out of it.
The idea of an interchangeable library of parts, that's core to Legions, and it's core to Infinite Legions. So working with Matt on this particular project and bringing Pheyden into the Legions universe really felt like it was coming full circle. It was also very practically, he's such a friend of the studio that we were like, hey, we have this crazy idea to do a partnership, not a traditional licensing model, but partner with you to make something cool. We don't know if it's going to work or not. So starting out with someone who is somewhat of a maverick himself and someone who's just willing to try new things and who loves what we do, and we've had decades of working together in mutual respect, everything just kind of lined up to say this is the first project, this is the natural fit to make Pheyden a Infinite Legions character. Adding in the custom pieces to fully render Pheyden out, something as simple as like he's got like a gun arm, right? But it looks so cool, and like just seeing that, there was almost like the kid in me that was just like giddy about how cool that was gonna be to have like just a weapon, a blaster arm. Seeing the different heads for Pheyden and just how it changes out the figure, I found myself looking at the prototype on the table and looking at the 3 different heads and saying like, I don't know which one I would display. I'm gonna have to buy 3 of them. And I know that as a fan myself, that's gonna be a sentiment that a lot of other fans are gonna share, is they're gonna be so excited for the different looks that they're gonna have to double and triple up to really get all of those styles. Seeing that figure full size, especially next to the Pheyden, it feels so new, but so much of an honor to where it came from. Like you can see the Glyos DNA in it. You can see that same attention to character and to love that's in it. And it was something special. Being able to actually be at the table when the bubble wrap got opened and Matt saw it for the first time. I've been in a delivery room when a child is born, and it's crazy to kind of compare it to that, but seeing him open it up, I mean, he's lived with Pheyden for decades now, and to see him see a whole new version of Pheyden, that was the first thing that I could think about. Like, it was literally seeing your child. I think it's a crazy analogy to make unless you are a creator that has birthed something like this. If you've created a character and you've poured so much of yourself and so much of your personal life and professional career into a character, I think you really can understand the emotional impact that you have seeing that figure. So much of what was built with Legions, both from a toy line and from a community, we owe that to the influence of Glyos. The interchangeability aspect of Legions is absolutely directly influenced by Glyos, the close-knit community of Glyos that really respects other artists and other creators. That is something that's been core to the Legions community and to the success of this line. So there's such a synergy there.
We worked with Matt on our Outer Spacemen line and our Power Lords line years ago. We've had so many talks about what what we could do together, those daydreaming type conversations. And we're so inspired by the way Matt has put together his line, the people he surrounds himself with, and the way that he interacts with his fan base. We've tried to emulate that with our line. It's so cool for us to watch the two groups come together and just see what a synergy there is there. And it's just a perfect fit. So it's been fun watching those two fan bases start to overlap and merge over the past few years. That's another reason this just feels like such a natural next step for us and for Glyos. For those who don't know, Mythic Legions was originally going to be a Glyos compatible line. That was at the time we were doing a lot of work with Matt and then the Glyos scale and Glyos compatible. And so Mythic Legions was fully planned out as a 4-inch scale line that was all about the fit function, the interchangeability, and compatibility with existing Glyos lines. And we hit a point where we had a decision to make whether or not to stay at that scale or move up to a more 6-inch sized figure. And again, not an easy decision, a lot of tossing and turning over that one. But just because we moved up in size, a lot of the elements that we had planned in stuck with the line moving up. And the interchangeable parts was absolutely something that was in the works, inspired by Glyos, and has become crucial to our line.
We were at Allegiance 2 years plus ago, and he broached what would become Infinite Legions. He brought up, he said, I think it's time we actually go into production on one of these crossovers. And I was yes from 2 decades ago. So we discussed it, and then we knocked around some ideas and some drawings, and then it really came into focus. And we worked on and off again on it for the greater part of a year, and then we were getting closer to Legions, and so then we really kicked it up.
This is something that we were really excited to announce at Legions Con last year. And it's a concept that we've talked about for a long time. And we were just waiting for the right time to unleash this line.
He had done a rough. He sent me the rough, and I just drew on it. But I tried to draw as he would solve a Glyos problem. And since we had worked together on Power Lords and OSM, and I was very familiar with his sort of, visual lexicon, so to speak, I can understand those lines. And there are some fundamental similarities to some of the ways we solve things. These parts were really worked on as a collaborative. It like big time. This was not a, hey, just make your own version. This was trying to understand each other's aesthetic, working on drawings, working on sculpts, reworking, working again, different views, drawing into the night, colors, comps, taking pieces and looking at them, prints, everything.
So many members of our community are now collecting Glyos, not only because they're super fun figures, but they're super great people. And that's really at the core of everything. I think that's what Infinite Legions is all about, is we want to have partnerships with people whom we admire and we want to work with. And of course, we're running a business. We want these to be successful. We hope they sell 1 million units. But it doesn't matter how many units they sell, the process has been incredibly special. Like working with Matt, the synergy that our two companies have for each other, how we make each other better and what we take from each other, that is core to this particular project and to the Infinite Legions idea.
And that's all done in coordination with each other, phone calls, texts, emails, friendship. Toy line's born out of desire, not necessity. But it's done because this is a long-term commitment, creatively and through friendship with each other. It just trying to make things that are have integrity and that are legitimately something you want. And it's a fun way also for our two sort of worlds to connect through the people that follow these different things to their creative endeavors. We're already seeing a lot of people sort of meeting each other's worlds, you know, and that is, I don't know really what is better than that in life. We always had this connection first. It was that wanting to be friends, you know, so anything we do, and I think on both sides of it, these things are made for the right reasons.
There we go.
Yeah, that's great work, Brad.
Yeah, that was when that first got put together, you know, the thought was that wasn't necessarily going to be shown during the reveal. It was going to be something we put online after. We will do that as well. So for everyone that just wants to dig in and watch that and freeze frame some of those segments, this will be on our YouTube channel as well. But it was, again, such a great way to explain the idea of Infinite Legions, which is, you know, we're starting this with Matt. We're starting this with a Glyos property, but this is not just Glyos translated to Legions. As we said, these are partnership projects for creators that we want to work with. But again, starting it with this project was just the perfect choice. Eric, I know right from the beginning, you were excited about getting to work with Matt on something like this.
A few years since we last officially worked together, and I mean, we had such a good run and just so many good years of, you know, making some great toys. But, you know, for us, a lot of it was the time spent on the phone, texting, and just the you know, the camaraderie and friendship of working together was, you know, just, and then out of that came great toys too. So like it was just like the perfect package deal. And, you know, we've just remained friends for so many years, and it's always such a special time, you know, like at Legions Con where we get to see each other. So, you know, to kind of be back in the saddle here from a work standpoint has just been such an awesome experience. And, you know, to, you know, even take it further and, you know, have Brad put this film together, and, you know, we did a visit together and all this. It really just, I mean, it is the ultimate way to do this, you know, this type of a collaboration. It's been amazing.
So watching that documentary, you got to see some shots of the figure. I know I saw in the comments a bunch of people. And Matt, there's definitely some Glyos fans in here because they were calling out some of those alternate heads and they were naming some characters. So let's get right into that. Let's show you what you're going to get with this figure here. You know, this was actually the first photo that we showed. We showed this at Legions Con in November when we announced the Infinite Legions line and brought Matt up. But at the time, this was a work in progress. You know, this was kind of a concept as part of that, you know, pushing and pulling together. And that's evolved to what we're going to see today. But I think when we think about the genesis of this in the beginning, I mean, it all starts here, right? So this is the Glyos Pheyden figure. And for those people that may not be familiar with Pheyden, Matt, I'd love it if we could take a few minutes just to talk about a little bit about this character's story and you know, what we're getting kind of lore-wise with Pheyden.
Sure. Well, Pheyden sort of acts as a, first and foremost, it's sort of the creative canvas for anybody who sort of enters into Glyos from our end of it. Because there's a lot now at this point, there's a lot of different entry points for Glyos. But Pheyden was always designed to be sort of a general guardian of Glyos, and the Glyos system and the Glyos system in our stories is sort of one and the same. So he exists in the Glyos system, you know, and originally was designed to monitor the edge of space. So if there was an anomaly or a hole, I think I remember the original description on the back of his little box, because at one point these were boxed, and he would go around patching the holes in space. And we thought, well, if he crossed over to the other side of the edge of space, he became sort of ironically infinite. So many different versions of Pheyden would appear in different dimensions. And I always thought it was interesting because of the multiverse fixation that sort of happened in most fiction over the last about 5 years, and basically since the pandemic. This was something that comes from my love of What If and all of these different stories and watching crazy shows as a kid. So Pheyden was the avatar for that. It's very basic. Now it gets really into the weeds when you see the passcodes that Marcus and I put together with Disasterpiece. And we always thought of it. One of the things I loved about Star Wars was that it just dropped you right into the action back in '77. Just boop. You don't know what's going on. So we sort of did that when we first made the first sort of, narrative that we presented to people with Pheyden. Just dropped them in a story. And then it just built from there. But the bottom line descriptor is he's a space traveler. He's a dimensional traveler. He's a time traveler. But it can be whatever you imbue it with. So if you buy this Pheyden, you can combine them. Now that Pheyden is canon. So I always said every single person's Pheyden is official, because that's exactly what it is. It's no different than ours. We just make the paintbrushes. The good paintings are made by the people that are out there.
Love it. I love the idea of creations becoming canon. That's once again something else, Eric, that I think that we've been able to kind of borrow from Matt and the Glyos community.
For sure.
But talking about borrowing from the Glyos community, so this first project, translating Pheyden into the first Infinite Legions figure, bringing it into, as Eric said in the documentary, our aesthetic, our build system, because that was core to this. Figures that use the Legions build system, that's how we get to here. So this is the full reveal of the Trevor Williams kind of environment shot for Infinite Legions Pheyden. This is the one that in all of the promo shots I've been artfully cropping. You can only see a little bit, but here we go. This is the full piece. And I'd love to dig into this a little bit further, but starting with kind of comparing those two. So looking at that original Pheyden and then how that translated into Infinite Legions. Eric, I'd love for you to talk for a few minutes just about, kind of what your mindset was, how you wanted to approach this project, having had so much familiarity with Pheyden. How did you go from that figure to what we see here as an Infinite Legions design?
The thing that actually just, struck me watching that film again is, where Matt's talking about how there's some commonalities about the way that we approach the design, certain forms that are similar, just certain solutions to the problem solving. And one of my biggest questions going into putting this figure together, we knew that we were going to be using existing pieces with it. And so the question is, how many can we use? What's the combination? And putting the Ox Crew cosmic pieces together with the Tusk cosmic pieces, it's so quickly the perfect proportion for Pheyden came together.
Crazy.
And I thought we were gonna have to do a lot more to get it to match up. And then but exactly that, like so many of those proportions were already inherent in the designs that we did.
Yeah. It's crazy.
It really is.
Yeah.
And so in a way, this is the type of figure, ended up being the type of figure that I love doing, where it is always, of course, fun to start a figure from top to bottom and completely start from scratch. But this type of figure is so much fun to work on because there was a nice base already there, and then the new pieces that were Pheyden specific, we were able to dig into those and really put the time and creativity and collaboration into those centerpiece parts. And like Matt said, we you showed that early pick there that we debuted, which was really just like a let's see what this could look like, to where we refined it into this Infinite Legions version of the character.
Yeah.
Now, of course,
you go.
This isn't to scale, Matt. So
no,
we're showing
one of
them.
the things it strikes me when I see them together like that on the right on the last picture in the deck is look at the legs, look at the proportions of the thighs, and then from the top of the knee down to the ankle, and the size of the feet. If you squint, that's very close to being in the larger size hand, and it's just really funny. It especially now on the other side of it, looking at this particular pick that Jeremy put together, because I was looking at these picks for a while, and it's really evident there. What Eric really was just saying. It's funny because seeing them like that, almost at the same size, really drives home that shared aesthetic. I guess we all owe George Lucas.
We all come from a very similar bank of inspiration, experiences that fuel this, which is what made this so much fun. I jumped ahead and shared this. This is actually more to scale of what the actual original Glyos Pheyden would look like next to the new Infinite Legions Pheyden. And that new Infinite Legions Pheyden, as we showed in this presentation, it comes with a variety of different parts, like the Legions build system is all about, like the Glyos system is all about, popping and swapping these to make new creations. Matt, as you said, to make your canon character, that's something we wanted to do here as well. So we do have that phase arm. So that's a cool addition. When the video, you heard me kind of geeking out about getting so excited about something like that. But playing with these figures, playing with the Legions figures, something like, that addition, we don't have that in our line thus far. So that's an itch that we now get to scratch with just that accessory here. But what we're seeing here, this is I guess what we would call the traditional Pheyden head, correct, Matt?
Yeah, that's I would classify that as sort of your standard Pheyden head, as we like to call it around here, our nomenclature. Yeah.
So we can do some head swaps, we can do some arm swaps too. So while this does have the phase arm, it does come with two lower arms. So you can remove that phase arm, which this was inspired by us knowing the line. When you sell Pheyden, he doesn't always come with the phase arm. It's a separate add-on piece. So we wanted to be able to show these characters in these multiple configurations. And this is one of the alternate heads. So this is what is called Scar Pheyden. And this is one of the alternate versions of Pheyden that happens because of that time traveling. Is that correct?
Yeah, and Scar Pheyden has manifested in some of our most, I guess, I mean, as much as success as we've ever had. It's our most successful iterations of Pheyden, Girius, and the most, probably the most well-known in our community is Hades, where he, in one of the passcodes that Marcus and I made, we showed Hades, sort of receive this scar, and that head sort of means a lot internally too, because I have a dead right eye, so Pheyden gets a good right eye, and between the two of us we have one set of peepers. So it's like a little thing to notice there. Notice that the belt is reversed for standard Pheyden, so the belt is also reversible, which is something that we try to incorporate. And I just want to, I'll just quickly interject that Trevor is unbelievable. I mean, talk about that. That's unbelievable photography. I mean, I do all our own photography here, and I know the hells of it. And that's something else. His ability is incredible. So Trevor, I know I haven't met you, but thank you for all the work you did. You're outstanding talent.
Yeah, he did a great job on these, capturing all the different looks. Speaking of different looks, Eric, you were not content only doing Pheyden and Scar Pheyden. You kind of went a little plumb crazy when it came to adding alternate heads. And one that I'm super excited for to do some army building with is this head, which we saw a bunch of people in the comments calling this out. This is the Sarvos head. So this is one that you wanted to add, correct, Eric?
Yeah, I think we all did. I think, again, that shared kind of, mindset on the way we build out our lines. We're all toy collectors. Part of that is, I think back to being a kid and getting a single stormtrooper figure.
Oh yeah.
The fantasy of having an army of stormtrooper figures is something that we as adults, that's the type of thing that becomes a reality. And so in all of our lines, we include these more troop builder style figures. And so talking to Matt, talking amongst ourselves, like we all liked the idea of having that that kind of faceless figure that it's a great one-off figure, but for those who want to have a group on the shelf that that makes sense, it's just a really fun addition to the pack out. Even if you just have that one figure, the fact that you can start switching these heads. 1 week it's Pheyden, 1 week it's Scar Pheyden, 1 week it's Sarvos. So, it's an extra part of the play pattern, which is, it's a true bonus.
And Matt, Sarvos in your lore, this is like an upgrade, right? But it comes with a bit of a price.
It does. So in our little story, when a traveler is given the chance to move up in power, they receive this Sarvos upgrade, which is essentially they're augmented. So they're more powerful than a normal, we call them first generation Pheydens. These are the first Pheydens that are iterations of the very first Pheyden. And then the Sarvos armor integrates and they go up one level, over a Pheyden, over a first generation Pheyden. But they have to obey their sort of overlords, because built within that is a kill switch. So they can be paralyzed or stopped if they turn on their so-called masters. Now, some of the Pheydens who have become this Sarvos upgrade have figured out ways around them. We have a character Tracker who was one in our stories who did it. And but in general, they become the troops of maybe a slightly nefarious, main group trying to cause a little bit of trouble in Glyos. So they can go either way. This is also I always thought as sort of an ambassador to those that might not be totally into Pheyden's slightly esoteric strangeness. This is very much, blowing a kiss to Samus Aran and Mega Man and, all of these things that we all have programmed from 8-bit love and troop builders, as Eric said, stormtroopers, Boba Fett's. This is what this is, designed for that. So if you're not really into Pheyden, chances are you might kind of like this one, because this pulls from many different sources. And when Eric and I put it through the handsome fire, that because everything Eric does is handsome, everything I do is usually slightly puffy, curvilinear, deformed. And he made this head that he did is they're all outstanding, but he added these vents right in the face. And I remember we went back and forth, and because I sent over a drawing, remember Eric, and then Eric came back and he added these little bits, and the vents were the coolest thing. And I'll say that one of our fellow makers, PJ from Spaced Out Design, who actually has a sale last night, so check him out. He lost his mind over this head. PJ actually did the prints for us off the first round for another piece of the project. But he looked at that head, and that was kind of the litmus test. He's like, I like this whole thing, but man, I need like an army of this. He looked right at those vents. He said, that was Eric, wasn't it? I said, of course, it's good. It's him.
Well, speaking of Eric, that video that we just played, right at the start, you talk about the evil Pheyden head that was really early in the relationship. So we had to bring that back. So excited to finally be able to get what is now officially called the anti-Pheyden head. Evil Pheyden is kind of our little nickname. But this represents the fourth head that's part of this. And additionally, in this photo, we see that little kind of hologram projection, Eric, of a Cosmic Legion's head. Now, we've done other hologram projections, but one of the things that's really exciting about this hologram projection that fits in that port is that is actually a Glyos compatible headpiece.
Yeah. That was, I mean, we had so many great conversations leading up to this, and it's a little detail. I mean, really, in this case, it's the peg that turns this from being, just an accessory into a bridge between the two toy lines. And I mean, again, just a funny, coincidence or fate, or whatever you want to describe it. The port on our figures, with the change of that peg shape, it's a perfect fit for Glyos.
It's crazy. 4 millimeter, just about 4 millimeter. And if you haven't placed anything in that hole, I mean, check your Legions figures. If you have your Cosmic figures, you can fit those right in there. And it's if it was, the toy gods smiled on the forearms of these guys. And that just, this was a no-brainer. Right, Eric. All right, Jeremy. This was a no-brainer to do. And that particular head, too, that's sitting on that forearm is my personal favorite of Eric's sculpts from the first round of Cosmic, which, I mean, Cosmic's one of my all-time favorite lines ever. And not just saying it because I love the people that made it. And I love it because of what it means, that it was achieved by a person who, Eric was on another path with another property. And then most people, if that couldn't have continued, they would have packed up and said, I guess that's it. And that's not what Eric did. And he doubled down, and with the help of the whole team, created a line that I think very quietly, in a lot of ways, is going to just continue to be some of the most innovative, aesthetic action figures that are out there, that I think would make Wayne Barlow blush. And that is what it is. And so that particular head, I love the idea that a head that sort of is a secondary character. I don't believe this species is even named yet, but I just love it. It's on my desk. And so if you think about it, now that head is going to be able to bridge in onto any Glyos figure that anybody's made, any of the makers at all. And I mean, that's technically the first Cosmic Legion's Glyos compatible piece right there on the forearm of a figure with already packed inside and out with all of these crazy things. Something else.
That head is very special to me. My first time ever visiting the studio was actually as an intern for a Day. And when Eric did his, always exciting sculpting demonstration, that is the head that he sculpted live for the interns when I was sitting in that room.
Come on.
Years before I started work. So this is the full breakdown. This is what we're going to get with the Infinite Legions Pheyden. As we mentioned, we get the phase arm that's fully swappable for a regular lower arm, 3 different sets of hands. It does have that little kind of disc that goes in the chest because the armor is an overlay. The shoulder armor comes off, the chest armor comes off. There's a couple different collars, the 4 different heads, all of that. This is going to be available as a pre-order. So this knew a number of people in the chat were asking about like, oh, is this in stock? And we had talked about that. Do we do this as in stock similar to Infinite Legions, or do we do this as a pre-order? The great thing about these partnerships, and we want this to have the crossover potential, so we don't want anyone to miss out. If they miss out on this reveal tonight and then they miss out on an in-stock sale. So by offering this as a short pre-order, our hope is that we'll be able to get these different communities that are discovering this the ability to order it. This will be available through our retailers down the road at a slightly higher price, but the direct pre-order price is going to be $45. The pre-order starts actually in about 10 minutes. Starts tonight at Four Horsemen in 10 minutes, and it goes until Sunday, June 22nd at 11 p.m.
Great price, by the way, guys. I like it.
Well, guys, we do have 10 minutes left. So should we keep going and show a little something else?
Oh, yeah.
Let's do it.
So we're working on Pheyden, and we're so excited for this that the idea gets brought up of, hey, maybe we should do another colorway. I mean, the great thing about Pheyden is, and Glyos in general, is there are countless awesome colorways that we could use for this. So we start discussing that, like what other color could we do for this? And in the true nature of this back and forth ping pong, this goes from, hey, let's do another colorway to, hey, let's add a whole new character. So I don't know if anybody who was watching that video saw that little purple piece of armor there, but that was not just an accident on the table. We were getting Matt to approve that color for the second Infinite Legions character. This is Pheyden. And I saw Kevin in the comments asking for this character over and over. So I'm sure he's going to be very excited right now. Matt, why don't you tell us a little bit about Pheyden?
Well, we kind of have a tomato. So we call him Phanos, tomato. He's the same brainy looking ugly dude. This guy actually has a little bit more of a complex story. If you want to nose into it, check out our passcodes, and the Curse of Iosire tells the story of how Phanos was created. But in our story, he actually has quite a large significance because, in my mind anyway, this is the first Pheyden, the fate of the first Pheyden in timeline A. And what happens when a Pheyden goes a little too far. And this was a heroic character who went through sort of a traumatic event and then emerged as this character. But then through this scarring of his head, because in just a slight, the way we made the original Pheyden, every character that's an iteration of Pheyden, I actually sculpted from an original resin casting of a Pheyden. So I always started at the original point and I just would push it. Same for Gavram, the LSA, for Phanos. And then Sarvos, that's an addition to a Pheyden head. And then that's how this was made. So art imitates life. So this character really scratched that itch of this sort of brainoid, Fisher-Price, brain guy, stone guy. Eric and I go back and forth. Is it brain? Is it stone? So when he sculpted this version of it, he incorporated both of those elements. There's a granite sort of brain texturing to it. But Thanos, he's an anti-hero to the max. He's Hakaiter, he's Boba Fett. He is badass. He's able to battle multiple travelers at once. He's able to battle Armadox. There's a couple comics we did that showcase this. And the late, great Ralph Neese did probably one of our most well-known comics, The Council of the Travelers. And this character means a lot to me, too. So the fact that Eric wanted to do it meant a lot to me personally. And this is sort of the main iteration of him actually has a glow head and black armor that went on to become the Hades colorway. But this was maybe the most preferred version. And Eric and I kind of like this purple, pink, black sort of, Barbie's mean uncle, and this has that colorway, a little bit Gatekeeper that we've done, which I know that Nate Barch likes that one. Hey, Nate. And this character is that. So if you're looking for someone to really clash with Pheyden, and he comes back in time, actually to try to assist his former version of himself by sort of beating up on him and trying to toughen him up. And so this is one of the main iterations of a Pheyden. And then he becomes his own character, if that makes any sense, what I just said. But just imagine, he's a badass character in our world, scarred up future version of a Pheyden from some hellscape world. That's him.
And we do get some alternate heads with this as well. So we are going to also include that anti-Pheyden head, but painted in a brand new colorway that goes with this. And we've also got the Sarvos head that comes with this as well, and a different Glyos compatible projection. Eric, this is exciting because while we saw a very familiar cosmic head in that first projection, this is actually a little bit of a teaser of something we haven't released yet.
Yeah, this is again is another just one of these threads that goes deep with us having discussions back and forth. This is an updated version of a sculpture that goes back as far as this was actually my first printed digital sculpture.
Wow, that's crazy.
That's awesome.
And it was sculpted, again, as us wanting to do something together, tying worlds together. And this head was sculpted years ago to go on one of Matt's Armivore figures, which I've got on my shirt here. Yeah, I mean, it's a character that has, it's a cosmic character. It was a pre-cosmic character at the time, and so I mean, this is a fun preview on multiple levels because you're actually going to get this character and be able to put it on a Glyos body before you're going to be able to really put it officially on a cosmic figure. So, and we've had a lot of fun discussions about how do we actually even story wise tie some of this stuff together. So again, this particular the head that this represents here has a lot of potential.
That's excellent. And we're seeing here the full build out. So even though we didn't show the phase arm in any of those photos, this does come with that swappable phase arm. The 3 total heads. This one actually has 2 different necks because we wanted one of the necks to match that Thanos head, but we also wanted to put the regular neck in as well. This is also going to be a $45 figure. Exact same pre-order window, starts in just a few minutes, goes till the 22nd. This is the wave. These are the two figures. We didn't want Infinite Legions to be an overwhelming amount of product. This is about putting out a couple really well thought out figures. So this is what we're going to get here. If you do want them both, we don't have a 2-pack where they're packaged together, but we are offering an even more of a discount. So 45 is the pre-order discount. If you buy them together, there's going to be kind of a combo. So you get both of the singles. That'll be even a little bit cheaper. That will be at $85. So that is going to be available just in a few minutes at 9 o'clock. These are the two together, but that's not all that we're going to have available. We posted this teaser graphic the other day, which is a reimagining of the Four Horsemen skull, kind of redone as the Pheyden look. And a number of people said, we want this to be on a t-shirt. And we said, we agree with that. We want it on a t-shirt too. So Retro Rags Limited, they're going to be selling this as a t-shirt starting at 9 o'clock. We also heard some people say, this would be awesome as a pin. Well, that's all you had to say to George, and he was off and running, ready to make some pins. But we couldn't just make one pin. We had to make 3 pins. So we've got a pin of Pheyden, that logo we just saw. And then, Matt, you ping-ponging, we did this. We got also the Phanos and the anti-Pheyden. So these soft enamel pins, they're about 1.5 inches each. These are going to be $10 a piece. And if you buy all 3 of them, there's a bit of a savings. They will be $25. So a lot of exciting stuff. That pre-order is live literally right now. You don't have to rush away and go get it immediately, but it is live now at storehorseman.com. So very excited. That's what we have to show, but I feel like we got to give them a little something extra. Like this is what the offering is, but kind of want to give them a little bit of a teaser of maybe something else that's coming. So this was another graphic, another image screen cap that was in that video where we've got the Infinite Legions Pheyden, the original Glyos Pheyden. And Matt, there's a little something in the middle there that is pretty exciting that I think we should show people. You agree with me?
Oh, yeah. You got it, Jeremy.
Okay. Let's see. I think we're going to go to another Little Brad video. So stay with us. We'll be back after the credits.
What if we took the Infinite Fate and we shrunk it down and we made it a Glyos figure too? From this figure then to this one, that's like my final death wish. My one wish was, well, what if we also continued the game of telephone?
If you get on the phone with Matt, it turns into work is gone. It's 4 o'clock in the morning.
It's more of a collaborative thing. So then he's donating these pieces so we can use it, and it helps sort of parse things out.
Since their forms are very different, it was a several-week process of going back and forth.
And we got this figure that starts to become a cosmic Pheyden at Glyos scale. Once Eric and I had worked it through, we turned it over, and then Bill and I started working on it. And we worked on it for weeks and weeks.
This crazy back and forth with he's throwing ideas out. He said, this is what, and I'll be sending pictures of stuff.
Around the clock at night and all, and we iterated again on it. So it's a game of telephone.
It's 4 o'clock in the morning, Matt.
So now this Glyos version of the Cosmic Pheyden, we tweaked the shoulder pads. We had to reconcile all where the joints are.
There's problems you have to work out where joints go together, where they're not even remotely the same in a 7-inch action figure to a 3-4-inch Glyos figure.
We had to create brand new areas, and we had to answer some questions that hadn't been answered yet. Bill and I are going back and forth.
Added some detail, took some detail away, changed some stuff.
I'm tearing apart Tusk figures, trying to interpret what, and I purposely didn't want to ask Eric about it. I wanted to try to solve it. And then because Bill works on all these sculpts with Eric, he understands Eric's visual language. Here's 4 different iterations. Which one do you think is most like? It would be solved. You understand the tech. And then he chooses one, then he sculpts it, sends it to me, and I draw on it, and I send it back to him. And we ping pong that son of a for hours and hours, or maybe days. And we do this from top to bottom on a brand new figure that's using assets that Eric and I had worked on. Now we're going through telephone and
It's 4 o'clock in the morning, Matt.
we're making this smaller figure that's not simply a translation. It's not just shrinking down. It's got brand new solutions. So this is the secret second mission of our overall operation, is to not just create, which is the steak, but also the burgers. So now there will be a Glios body that is worthy of that head that Eric made all those years ago.
That's Mancuso.
The super secret. So I do need to apologize to everyone who asked me if this was going to be Legions done as Glios figures, and I said, no, it's not. That was actually the answer at one point, but these things have a way of kind of evolving and becoming something new. So Matt, that's really exciting as well. I know that this is just a little bit of a teaser, but to set expectations, this is something that will be available not from Four Horsemen Studios, but from Onell Design later this year, correct?
Yeah, yep. Around, maybe we're thinking around early fall, and absolutely at Legions Con, where, you know, there's a lot of little moving parts that are still going on, but it's coming together really well. And again, big thanks to Bill for everything he did on it. You know, he's already a great person, but we had a blast with it, and we went back and forth. And special thanks to PJ too for printing out the parts while we did it. I met him off the highway at a Chipotle at one point where we're looking over this thing while he was like, they're like, get out of here, and PJ printed it out. And so it's been a lot of the group together on this. So it's and also just those heads that, you know, that we looked at there, the hologram heads, they've got a home waiting for them.
Yep.
So if you like Cosmic, and you're gonna get, in a lot of ways, one of the first 3 3/4 inch actual real Four Horsemen aesthetic figures that's ever been, because OSM and Power Lords were based on stuff. Eric, of course, you did incredible original designs in Power Lords. John Kent and I are still crying over that one, but it's
Me too.
yeah, all of us. But this is sort of the child of that. So we're going to get this body that's also, we try to reconcile everything like we do with our normal figures. There's new designs on it. Probably an interesting thing in the graphics there, just to wrap up, was solving the lower abdominal area on a Cosmic Tusk type body, because most of your figures the belt is there. Yeah. So Bill and I went through this process of trying to suss out what that might look like, because this figure is going to have a removable belt, a removable scarf. It comes with both forearms, and it comes with the mega phase blaster, and it's got a couple different heads. We'll leave that one as a little bit of a mystery, but you know for a certain fact that Pheyden will be present and causing a lot of trouble when he lands in the Glios system. So this is a 3 3/4 inch, you know, infinite cosmic figure manifesting here with all the fixings. So we love it. So this picture you got up on screen right here is sort of the, you know, that means a lot personally too. That's like family photo.
An amazing way to kind of cap off this presentation with that reveal as well. But the fun doesn't actually have to end here. There is, after this show, there is a kind of recap show on Offworld. But the crew is going to all be hanging out this weekend at 5 Points as well. So 5 Points Festival in Beacon, New York. We are going to be there, Matt. You are going to be there. A number of different Glyos makers. And if you want to see the Infinite Legions prototypes live and in person, they will be on display at 5 Points Festival this weekend. So if you're in the area, definitely go check that out. That's going to be a lot of fun. And of course, available now at storehorseman.com. The first release for an Infinite Legions. We've got Pheyden. We've got Thanos. Thank you all very much. Matt, Eric, thank you as well as
Thank you,
always.
Jeremy. Thanks everybody for watching.
Go to the site, purchase these figures, support projects like these, support artists like these. We thank everyone who is going to do that, everyone who tuned in tonight, everyone who's catching it on replay. Thank you all very much. Pre-order ends on the 22nd. We will see you soon. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Right.